Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and you are looking at what I'm doing right now. I have a brisket on my Traeger smoker. Brisket, if done right, to me is one of the best meats that there are. I issued a challenge to Big Skinny. He cooks a lot too, and so he challenged me back. He said, okay, coming at you. Looks like he's got a bunch of ribs. What kind of grill is that? He might have no, that doesn't look like a Traeger. I don't think that's anyway, Skinny is going to give me a run for my money. I did an FYI today. XRP Performance has crushed Bitcoin and Ethereum performance on the year, but CNBC is not going to tell you this. This is from Coin Paprika. On the year, Bitcoin 25.26%, Ethereum 7.03%, XRP 67.23%, and that's the fact, Jack. You may notice that a lot of the guys who at one time were our adversaries and now they want to be on the same team because it's called the winning team. That's the XRP winning team. So Jake Travinsky says, in case you couldn't tell, we're winning. And then we had another one of our former rivals, just in Coinbase, says they expect to win their legal battle against the SEC. It wasn't easy when it was just us, but we fought regardless. This guy says, if X wants to become the best place on the internet to earn a living, as Elon tweeted, crypto has to be on Elon's mind. Here are my personal thoughts, musings as to how. To be honest, you can't think U.S. only. The universe of creators needs to be paid in a currency country of their choice. If I were creator, this would be at the top of my list. However, it's likely an average check for the creator, But the point here is, folks, what he says right here. You have to be paid in the currency country of their choice. Now, who on earth could do that? Well, Monica Long, president of Ripple, put a light bulb up there. Like, just think, who could it be? Who could it be that could multiple currencies? Ah, man, just makes too much sense, doesn't it? R3 has all of a sudden become activated, folks. During R3's recent, and I'm going to put this in I'm going to put part of this maybe in the red file. The red file has been activated, folks. The red file is totally activated right now. R3, David Rudder, the CEO of R3, spoke to former SEC chairman, same guy that dropped the Ripple lawsuit and then left and walked out the door, and CFTC chairman Chris Giancarlo, had both of them in a thing. And I told David Rudder and R3, what an utter cop-out to let Jay Clayton on your stage and talk about crypto and securities and not even ask him about the disaster he created by dropping the Ripple lawsuit, then walking out the door and never being held to account. And by the way, Ripple won. And I copied Chris Giancarlo on that. A lot of people were harmed by him and his anti-American actions. But this is the stuff they're letting him talk about on stage.
Gary, who followed in your footsteps, Gary Gensler has been extremely active. You took a couple steps as chair too. So what's your view on these thousands of cryptocurrencies out there?
So look, I've said this for a long time, and I think that the market has evolved, but many, if not the vast majority of tokens that were sold for cash would fall within the definition of a security.
Now, look, our country is at a point where screw the decorum. What you do is you stop him right now and say, wait a minute, the judge just said you were wrong, Jay, in the Ripple case. The judge just said you were wrong. You filed that case against them. It cost them $200 million and harmed all of these investors. You let it go for 8 or 10 years, and then you filed a lawsuit as you walked out the door, and you hurt all those investors, and now you're going to sit here and keep carrying your same baton? That's bull crap.
The definition of a security in America was intentionally broad and intentionally flexible. And that's what we're seeing play out. There have been a lot of what I would say is differences of opinion about what's not a security. People say, oh, if it's utility, it's not a security.
Whatever. All right,
Gary.
Now, this clip right here is about FTX, and you can't miss this, folks. Remember, all the White House, CFTC, SEC, Congress, they were all meeting with Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX, but they weren't just meeting, they were having planning sessions with Sam Bankman-Fried. Right here, David Ratcliffe, is that his name? I think I got his name right. David Rudder, I'm sorry. David Rudder acknowledges that he was in some of those discussions, and then he looks at Chris Giancarlo, and remember, Chris Giancarlo is the one that introduced Sam Bankman-Fried to Gary Gensler.
So I don't know. I've met Russ and I've met Gary on a couple occasions, but they're not friends of mine. As you know, with the FTX proposal for real-time margining, the CFTC, he and I spent an hour talking about that, and they were very close to kind of pushing that forward, which would have been, an absolute disaster. But so I don't know.
It would have been an absolute disaster, and they were all trying to help make it happen, folks. And don't forget, both the SEC and the CFTC were behind the scenes working with Joseph Lubin and the Brooklyn Project from Consensus. Joseph Lubin, Andrew Keys. And I got a question for Charles Payne too, because I can't tell who the good guys and the bad guys are anymore. But what I do know is that Charles Payne and nobody else in the media will ask these Bitcoin maxis. They prop them up and they let them come on their shows and talk about how great Bitcoin is, but none of them will ask them about the Homeland Security meeting with the 4 Satoshis. It's more of this kind of bull crap.
All right, so let's call it the $4.5 billion bet on Bitcoin. And my next guest, they're still stacking up that bet. Michael Saylor is now the executive chairman at MicroStrategy. Michael, a year ago, you stepped down as the CEO of the company. The haters were dancing on your grave, my man. I mean, Bitcoin was going down. Your stock was going down. Here we are now. Bitcoin's about...
Oh, whatever. No, Charles, why don't you have somebody on to talk about how high XRP's going? It's outperformed Bitcoin by 3 times this year. Where's that interview? Uh-oh, remember this? Tony Valentino, who's one of those social media characters who kind of talk like they might know something. Regulatory clarity will be first major announcement. This will open the gates to many institutions that are waiting on the sidelines. We could easily see the market cap grow by a few $1 trillion within weeks. Next step will be UN, IMF, Fed throwing their weight behind XRP. Then we've got this. This hit yesterday, I guess. Brace for impact. Ripple Labs has joined the International Swaps and Derivatives Association, ISDA, a financial behemoth with a total notional outstanding value of derivatives reported to be approximately 558.5 trillion. This is a game changer for Ripple and XRP. Ripple now stands shoulder to shoulder with over 1,000 members across 79 countries. The potential for Ripple and XRP is a colossal market. In this colossal market is astronomical. The full impact of this alliance remains to be seen. Will Ripple weave intricate collaborations with these global powerhouses? The anticipation is palpable. Following recent legal victories, Ripple is reigniting its partnerships with the U.S., signaling resurgence in its domestic operations. This isn't just big, it's a financial revolution. We're talking about a potential influx of trillions of dollars. Get ready, a financial tsunami could be on the horizon. This tweet has more thumbnail phrases than any tweet I think I've ever seen for me. Thank you, Wall Street Bulls. And I wanted to remind everybody of what Kendra Hill, who disappeared off social media, said many years back. Think of cross-border payments as a nice testing ground. That's how I think of Bitcoin and Ethereum, by the way. A nice testing ground to prepare Ripple for the use case they've been focused on since the very beginning. The true intentions of Ripple are to handle 100% of the transactions which take place in the derivatives market. So why do they not make this public knowledge? For multiple reasons, the most important one being they are not ready. They are missing a piece to the puzzle, and that piece is called Codius. Many question whether Codius is dead or alive. And here we have, I believe, I can't remember the person's name. Listen to this.
I don't know whether it's 2 years or 3 years from
Zoe
now,
Cruz, maybe?
where you will not think of a world that's in the old rails. It will be in the new rails. It will be in the new rails. It will be in the new rails.
The financial system is going through a
This is one of Darren Moore's clips.
significant transformation. The old system, which relied on IOUs and paper contracts, is being replaced.
What I can say is in terms of timing is I've been working on this for 5 years. So 5 years ago, nobody knew what it was. If you look at the banks today and the big asset managers and so on, each one of them has a team of anywhere between 20 and 400 people working on deploying tokenization-based solutions and infrastructure. It's a long build. So 23 is the year where we're building this, where we are going to have some water in the pipes, basically. Some initial deals, some transactions that you're seeing here and there, but institutional grade. What we've seen before was non-institutional grade assets going to retail and things like that. What we're going to start to see, just like KKR, but others as well. I had a conference in December, which I call the Asset Managers Are Coming. You know, we had Hamilton Lane on stage in Aberdeen and you know, the likes of BlackRock are in the market, the likes of Vanguard and so on. So JP Morgan, as I said, Goldman Sachs, Citibank, they're all working on it. So 23 is the year where we're building the infrastructure. 24 is the year where it can start to scale. But like any digital revolution, once it starts scaling, it's quite exponential because it's very easily replicatable.
There is no asset in the world that I would rather have than XRP. You couldn't pry mine from me. Now, check this out. I tweeted this the other day when the Freedom of Information, the Empower Freedom of Information Act request, and I wanted to remind everybody that Kyle Samani, Tushar Jain of Multicoin Capital, their limited partners are A16Z and Union Square Ventures, and Mike Novogratz, who's buddies with Joseph Lubin. Those were the three guys that were out there publicly bragging about shorting XRP. Just by pure coincidence, the people that they are connected to happen to be the ones in the closed door meetings with the SEC that was going to give Ethereum a free pass. And you know, if you remember, Joseph Lubin came out of all that real arrogant about Ripple. He kept saying, he made comments like, he would say things like, oh yeah, well we think that the SEC's made all the comments that they're going to make on this decentralization. This is what he was saying. And he said, notice they didn't say anything about the Ripple token, okay? And so he obviously came out of those meetings somehow knowing that they weren't going to help the Ripple guys out the way they helped him out, okay? So if he knew that, did he tell Novogratz that? Because we also have Novogratz on video saying he talks to Lubin to get information about what's going on. So did he tell him that? And we also wonder, did any of the Andreessen Horowitz or Union Square Ventures guys tell these Multicoin Capital guys anything? I'm not saying any of them did. I'm just saying it's something worthy of asking, because here, look at this. This is from Forbes in 2020. The Multicoin Capital guys were out there bragging about shorting XRP in 2018, I believe. Then in 2020, February 9th, they do a Forbes thing. Crypto Confidential, avoid XRP, says Multicoin. Well, look at this part of the Forbes article. It says, Kyle Samani and Tushar Jain are the 29-year-old co-founders of Multicoin Capital, a $100 million crypto hedge fund backed by Mark Andreessen and Fred Wilson's Union Square Ventures. Those are the only two venture capital firms that were in ETHgate, that were behind the scenes meeting with the SEC to get the Ethereum free pass. They were the only two, folks. And I've always felt like Mike Novogratz was an investor in Ripple, and I always felt like he loved the plausible deniability that owning Ripple equity gave him to be able to go out and say, oh yeah, I'm short XRP, I just don't understand this token. I always felt like that's what his play was. And I'm wondering if that's what Andreessen Horowitz play was. I've never heard Ripple comment on this, but it sure has to be awkward behind the scenes between Andreessen Horowitz and Ripple, because this thing, both of these guys are the ones backing Multicoin Capital. Why? Let me ask you a question. This is a common sense question. Let's say you and me invest in Ripple, and then you and me go over and we invest in Multicoin Capital. And then we see Multicoin Capital going out and bashing the number one asset of Ripple that we've invested in. Are we not going to call up Multicoin Capital and say, what are you doing, guys? I'm funding you guys. I've got an investment over here. Aren't we going to do that? Let me present a different scenario. What if you and I have invested $2 million in Ripple, but we've invested $100 million in the Ethereum thing? We'd have some plausible deniability, wouldn't we? And I'm not saying any of these guys are guilty of anything. I'm just saying this is what I'm saying. Where have all the investigative journalists gone? Because this is definitely worthy of some of these guys having to answer some questions. Like Kyle Simoni, Tushar Jain, did you ever talk to the guys at Andreessen Horowitz? Did you have any knowledge that Andreessen Horowitz and Union Square Ventures were meeting with the SEC? Did you have any knowledge of what was going on with Ethereum, that they were going to do a speech about Ethereum? Did you know anything about this? Mike Novogratz, did you know anything? Where are the investigative journalists? We used to have those when I was growing up. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and ask your friends and family, where have all the investigative journalists gone? Thanks for listening.